In this video, you will learn about perimeter and circumference. As we begin, we need to understand what we're talking about when we say perimeter and circumference. Perimeter, by definition, is the distance around a polygon. Circumference is the distance around a circle. So the words perimeter and circumference are pretty much the same. It just depends on which shape I'm dealing with. So let's look at polygons first. Here we have a triangle, and each side is 2, 3, and 5 feet. The perimeter is the distance all the way around. So if I add 2 plus 3 plus 5, that would give me the perimeter, or the distance around the triangle. And when I add those together, my perimeter would be 10 feet. Here is a trapezoid. Now if we were to find the perimeter of this shape, we simply add all the side lengths together. So we do 8 plus 4 plus 5 plus 4. That gives me a perimeter of 21. And don't forget your units. Your units are meters, so the perimeter is 21 meters. Now looking at parallelograms, it is important to know that the opposite sides of a parallelogram are the same. So here we see a parallelogram. With this, we know that the opposite sides are the same. So if this side is 6 meters, then this side over here is 6 meters as well. And then if this side is 10, then this side is 10 also. So to find the perimeter, I could add up 10 plus 6 plus 10 plus 6. And that would give me 16 plus 16, which would be 32 meters. Okay, now there's a shorter way we can do this. We realize that there are two lengths. Okay, we have two 10s. So we have two lengths, and we have two 6s, or two widths. So the perimeter is found by taking the two lengths and adding that with the two widths. So here we have two 10s, and we have two 6s. So we take 2 times 10 plus 2 times 6. 2 times 10 is 20, plus 2 times 6 is 12. So 20 plus 12 would give me 32 meters. And notice that is the same thing as adding each number separately. So either way, we get the same answer, either with the formula or adding each side by itself. Here is another parallelogram, and in this case we have a rectangle. So with a rectangle, again, each opposite side will be the same. So if the left side is 4, the right side is also 4. And if the bottom is 8, the top is also 8. So to find the perimeter, I have two lengths and I have two widths. So I have two 8s and I have two 4s. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 2 times 4 is 8. 16 plus 8 would give me 24 feet as my perimeter. So the distance all the way around this rectangle is 24 feet. With a square, we can realize that every side is the same length. So we have 4 sides all the same. So if this is 8, then this is 8, this one is 8, and then the left side is 8 as well. So we could add 8 together 4 times in a row, 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, or we can think of that as 4 times 8. So for the perimeter, for a square, we can do 4 times the side length. So in this case, we have 4 times 8, which gives me 32 centimeters. So the perimeter, or the distance around the square, is 32 centimeters. Now here is an example problem. A parallelogram has a perimeter of 60 meters with one side length of 8 meters. And the question is to find the other side length. Now with this problem, it will be helpful to draw yourself a picture where it says one side length is 8 meters and then the other side is unknown. Alright, and the perimeter we know is 60 meters. So we can use the fact that we know the perimeter and one of the side lengths to calculate the other side length. Well, we know the perimeter is found by taking two lengths plus two widths. So I can plug in numbers that I know. Perimeter is 60, so 60 can go in for P, and the width is 8, so plug an 8 in for W. So I have 60 equals 2L plus 2 times 8. Well, 2 times 8 is 16. And from here I can solve by getting rid of the 2 and the 16. When I solve an equation, make sure that you work in reverse order of operations. So we see addition right here, and we see 2 times L, which is multiplication. So get rid of the addition first, and we do that by subtracting. So we subtract 16 from both sides. That will cancel. I now have 2L on the right, and then I have 44 on the left. So 2 times the length is 44. So if I divide both sides by 2, I now have 1 length equals 44 over 2, which is 22. So the length is 22. So this number right here is 22 meters. And I can double check, because if I add all the side lengths together, I should get back out a 60. So if this is 8, then the right side is 8. And if the top is 22, then the bottom is 22. So I take 22 plus 8, which is 30, plus another 22 and 8, which is another 30. 30 plus 30 is 60. So now we've dealt with polygons. Next we're going to work with circles. Now with circles, there are a few definitions that we need to be aware of. First is the term circle. Alright, I think most people know what a circle looks like, but the definition is a set of points that are all the same distance from a fixed point called the center. So here, letter O is your center, and any point on the circle is the same distance from the center. Alright, so that is what makes a circle. Now when we name a circle, we can name it by its center point. So this circle has a center of O, so this would be called circle O. Now in the circle we see different lines and line segments. So here in this picture we have what is called a chord, which is a line segment with both endpoints on the circle. So for example, CD, right here, this segment, the endpoints are right here on the circle. And then also right here, chord AB. The endpoints of the segment A and B are on the circle. So we have chords CD and chords AB. Next we have what is called the diameter. Diameter is the chord that goes through the center. So AB, for example, diameter AB goes through the center, and it's a chord because it has its endpoints on the circle. So our diameter would be AB. And then we have what is called the radius. The radius is the segment that goes from the center, so from point O, to a point on the circle. So like O to B or O to A, that would be a radius. Or maybe another way of thinking of this is a radius is half the diameter. So the diameter is all the way across the circle. The radius is halfway across the circle. So again, we have segments AO and then segment OB. Both of those would be a radius. Now with circles, we have a term that we call pi. And this is spelled PI. And what this is it's a ratio comparing the circumference of a circle to its diameter. So if you were to compare the circumference, or the distance around the circle, with the diameter of the circle, we would always get the same ratio of pi. So this ratio will always equal the same number for any size circle. We can have a really small circle or a really large circle. This ratio of taking the circumference and dividing it by the diameter will always equal the same number. And that number we call pi. This number is equal to 3.14159265535, etc. This number keeps going forever, and this is what is called an irrational number, meaning it will go on forever without repeating. Now for calculating purposes, we can round this number to typically 3.14. So as we said, pi is circumference divided by the diameter. I can rearrange this and solve for c, the circumference, by multiplying both sides by d. When I do that, the d's cancel over here, Now I have c equals pi times d. So what this is my formula that can be used to calculate the circumference. So for example, if I have a circle, such as right here, and we know that the diameter AB is 3 meters. AB is your diameter, and the question is, what is the circumference, or what is the distance all the way around the circle? So to calculate that, we can use the formula c equals pi times d, where c is the circumference and d is your diameter. So all I do is I plug in the number 3, which is my diameter, plug it in for d to get c equals pi times 3. So I typically put the number before pi, so I'd probably write this as c equals 3 times pi. So I can leave my answer like this, or I can take the time to multiply by pi to get 3 times 3.14, which would give me 9.52 meters. So my circumference would be 9.52 meters, and that is the distance all the way around the circle. Here is another example. We know AO is 5 meters, and the question here is again to find the circumference. Well, again, I can use my formula, c equals pi times diameter. Now be careful, because AO, the length of 5, is not your diameter. AO is the radius length. The diameter is twice that. It's all the way across. So the diameter is twice 5, which would be 10. It's the distance from A all the way to B. Because if this is 5, then this is 5 as well. So the whole entire distance across is 10. So I plug 10 into my formula for diameter, where I have c equals pi times 10. So I usually write the number first. So c equals 10 times pi. I can leave my answer like this, or I can take the time to multiply by pi. So I get 10 times 3.14, which would give me 31.4, and the units are in meters. And by the way, we can put the units up here as well, 10 pi meters. So either way to write this is fine. In real life, you would probably want to multiply out to get this number down here. So in the last two examples, we were given the radius or diameter, and we used that to calculate the circumference. Now here, we are given the circumference, and we're trying to find the diameter and the radius. So in this situation, we are working backwards. We can still use the circumference formula, which says c equals pi times diameter. And here, however, we're going to plug in a 35 in place of c for the circumference. So c is 35, pi is 3.14. I can use those numbers into this formula. And at this point, the only thing I don't know is diameter. So what I can do is I can solve this equation. We have 3.14 times diameter. So to solve for diameter, do the opposite of multiplying, which is dividing. So that's a 3, divide by 3.14 on both sides. And on the right side, these will cancel. I have d on the right side, and then 35 divided by 3.14 on the left side. If you type this in your calculator, you will get an answer of 11.15 centimeters. And this answer is rounded to the nearest hundredth place. So the distance all the way across from A to B is 11.15, which means the radius is half of that. So I can take 11.15 divided by 2 to get approximately 5.575 centimeters for the radius.